Hello, my fellow Alaskans. Sorry, didn't mean to blast your eardrums out there. We are currently at the MatSu Assembly Candidate Forum Debate being brought to you by the Alaska School of Government. And these are the candidates that are running for the MatSu Borough Assembly. We currently have two that are here right now. And the only candidate that has not shown up, surprise, surprise, was Stephanie Mowers. So it will be really interesting to see what happens here today. Hopefully you guys are all able to hear me loud and clear right now. And get my other microphone up and running here and see if I can hear everything. Oh, perfect. All right, so they are going to be having their little forum here today, and they're going to be discussing the issues that are going on within the Matanuska Borough and why they believe they're going to be the right candidates for the job. And you can see them both over here. I'll zoom in there. These are the two that have shown up, Megan and Dana. They are both here for the MatSu Borough Assembly Candidate Forum, and they are going to be discussing the issues. These are two very like-minded candidates. Both sit on different parties out there, but you would never know it unless you actually asked them. But they're very bipartisan, but they're very staunch in their values for limited government control and more freedom to the people. And of course, Stephanie Mowers, who was also invited here, the current assembly member that's holding that seat, she did not show up here for the debate. I'm still looking around waiting for her to be here. Edna DeBry will not be hosting this tonight because it would be a conflict of interest in her position in office within the borough of the assembly already in the MatSu borough. And so here comes our presenter right now walking on up. He's going to be the one hosting this event for everybody here today. Take a moment right now to please like and share. You'll find me here. I will be tomorrow morning. I am doing a Senate candidate debate that I will be live streaming, and that is for all the candidates that are running in the MatSu borough. And then later on that evening, I will be at the ConCon. That will be at the MatSu Library there at the theater. And that is going to be Mike Schauer and Shelley Hughes, given the reasons why we should all be voting yes for the Constitutional Convention. And go to convencionyes.com. That's convencionyes.com. To find out more information on why you should be voting yes for the Constitutional Convention. I'll give you my number one reason. Our law-breaking government, our legislators in Juneau, in combination with the judicial branch, which has taken over full control of who gets to sit on those seats, ruling over all of us in the court of law. They have full control over that, and Pandora's box has been open wide for a very long time, and that disease has been running rampant throughout Alaska, and it has infiltrated every level of our government and institutions. And when you're looking at money that's paying for all of this, NEA of Alaska, 1630 Fund, which is a Soros-based political left-leaning, the list goes on, NEA Alaska, NEA National, they have raised over $2.5 million of dark money that has flooded into our state, telling us Alaskans that we shouldn't be allowed to take back control of our government. The swamp has got deep pockets, and they're doing everything they can, just like the smear campaigns that we see going on that I just posted on earlier today. And what they're saying, Senator Schauer, what they had to pull something out of the hat that was a year and a half old. And a year and a half ago, he had made conversations about having the Constitutional Convention, and he wasn't all for it at that point, but he was trying to make a point that if they didn't vote to do something permanent for the permanent fund dividend and come with a decision that Alaskans would accept, there's only going to be one outcome from that, and that's he's going to swing his stance to vote yes for the Constitutional Convention. Well, they didn't want to play ball. They kicked that can down the road again for the 7th year in a row, and he went the opposite direction. And for well over a year now, he's been saying yes to a ConCon. And tomorrow night with him and Shelley Hughes, we'll be having a conversation about that. I do plan on attending it. It'll be at the Lusac Library. I believe it starts at 6 p.m. I'd have to go back to my notes to find that out. In fact, I could look that up real quick just to let you guys all know for sure. And I don't want to give you the wrong day on our wrong time on that one. And it starts at 7 o'clock. It's at 7 p.m. is when the ConCon discussion is going to start there at the Lusac Library tomorrow at the theater. And tomorrow morning I will be at a Senate debate for the MatSu Valley. All political parties are going to be there for this debate. And then we'll see what the rest of the week brings after that. There's another big event going on, but I'm hearing it's an insiders event, and they're not planning on allowing people like me to live stream it. So I may or may not be going to that one. And but I'm here today for the MatSu Assembly candidate forum/debates, and Stephanie Mowers didn't decide to show up today. She was invited, but she has miraculously always has something else to do when it comes to sitting down with more conservative candidates, those who I've zoomed in on now that you can see there in the background. And so we got Dana and Megan, who are both running for assembly here in the MatSu Valley, and they're both looking to unseat the exact same assembly members. So we'll see what happens today in today's debate. And but when you got two like-minded candidates that pretty knowledgeable on both ends on what the issues are, there's not going to be much of a debate going on here, but more of a concurrence of what the other one says. And let me add on to it, this is what else I think we can do. People that are coming to the table with solutions, not how can we keep the problem kicking down the road. If you didn't catch my homeless camps, drug addicts, whatever you may want to call them, oh, they're getting started here. Let me swing on out of the way. All right, the other microphone should be on now. I'm going to turn the other one off. Hopefully you can hear them really good after this. They're having just a little bit of microphone trouble themselves, trying to work that out there. Again, if you're just joining us all here right now, if you haven't liked and shared this, what is your problem? We need informed voters out there this election season. The only way we're going to have informed voters is by people like you liking and sharing videos like this.
Get a rowdy sit next to a rowdy? Sure. Hey, Bert.
Welcome. Welcome.
Just yell.
Just check.
It's not working again.
Welcome. Let's find our seats so we can get started. Sorry for the technical difficulties on my behalf. But Mayor Edna and Noel will not be here today, and they have asked myself and CJ to fill in for them the best that we can. But we know we're not going to be able to reach that level, so we're going to ask for a lot of grace. So if we can find our seats, that would be wonderful. All right. Open up in prayer.
Everybody will stand, please. Gentlemen, please remove your hats. Father God, we just thank you for the opportunity to live in this come together and to learn all the different things that we need to know how to keep our country a great country. And Father, we just ask that you be with the candidates today and help them and help us, Lord, to get to know them better. And just bless this time. In Jesus' name we pray, amen.
And Pat, would you lead us in the pledge?
Peace to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Pat. Thank you, Pat. So what we're here to do tonight is we're going to be doing our candidate forum for the assembly. So we have 3 candidates, and if they would come forward and take a seat. There is one, we're going to do one announcement at the beginning, and then we'll do announcements at the end after they're done.
We have a petition going around. Mayor Edna has started a petition today, and it essentially, it's going to Senator McConnell, and essentially says, stay out of our Alaska politics. And she is going to be faxing that to his office tomorrow morning. Pat has the petition, so it'll be circulating, so if you see it, please read it, of course, before you sign it, but that's the summary on it. So just want to let you know.
And again, that will be faxed tomorrow morning, so just make sure that you understand that as you're signing it. What we're going to start with, we'll start with Megan and then work our way down, and then we'll try to go sequentially as we go through the questions. But if you can just basically state who you are and a brief summary of why you want to be assembly member.
All right, sounds good. Thank you very much. Hey folks, so my name is Megan Trupp. I actually grew up here in the Valley. I grew up off of Silver Meridian. Actually, a lot of people know me as one of the Bryant Hill kids. Graduated from Colony High School in 2011. Pretty much the last couple of years has been quite the wake-up call for a lot of folks, and it's made me realize I need to pay attention more when it comes to politics. So I did. And I have been a big advocate for the past couple of years about going against mandates and going against government overreach. I in fact started a Facebook group, a Facebook page called the Eskimo Libertarian, and it's gained quite some traction. I've been considered a leader in the liberty movement. Up until recently, I was having a reach of 5 million individuals on Facebook, but now with election seasons, that's been scaled back, and shadow bans and whatnot, that tends to happen around election time. But I found great success in figuring out solutions and voluntarism through that page, letting people know how they can help in their community, how they can fight government overreach, and so that is also why I'm running here today, because I believe I haven't been accurately represented, and I would like to scale back government overreach, government spending, government taxes. I don't know how many of you have gotten groceries and filled up your gas tank recently, but it hurts the wallet, and I believe we all need a break. So that is a little bit about me. Thank you very much.
Hi, I'm Dana Raffanello. I'm originally from Brooklyn, New York, a long time ago. Been in Alaska since 2001, and in the Valley since 2012. I am former military. I was in the Marine Corps. I'm a network engineer, so I make the internet work throughout the state. We do the fiber optics going up and down the coast, the west coast of Alaska. The reason why I'm running is similar to what Megan was saying. It's getting out of control. So what caused me to look up was what happened at Colony High School with the locker room there. That was kind of the last straw, so I put my name in the ring for this, and mostly because the lady from District 1 just isn't listening to her people. She was the only one that voted against the vote act over here that we passed last week. So we need someone that's going to listen to the people of District 1 of the Valley and work for your behalf on everything in the government, right? We want to make sure that your lives are not impacted by anything the government's going to do. So that's kind of what I'm looking at doing, is to help everybody in the community move forward.
I'm Brian Endel, your true conservative candidate for MatSu Borough Assembly District 1. I'm running for less government, lower taxes, and election integrity. So I got involved in government about 11 years ago when a small group of people in our community decided that they wanted to zone us and basically steal our property rights. So the the neighborhood where I was from they weren't really happy with that, neither was I. So I led an effort to put that comprehensive plan, as it was called, down, and we got rid of it. We got rid of the community council, we replaced them, and I started moving on from there. Later, Mayor DeVilbiss asked me to be on the Planning Commission, where I served for 3 years. But before I was appointed, I don't know if you remember Warren Keogh, but he's on the far left, and he brought 2 false witnesses against me to testify against me at the hearing. And I did get in there. I did serve my 3 years, but he and Sykes were both on the left side, and Sykes brought the Green Party to Alaska. So they were opposing me, but they endorsed they endorsed my opponent and gave him money. So I'm showing you that there's a difference between me and my opponent. So as I ran for assembly the first time in 2016 against Sykes and he won, he started bringing ordinances that were far left. There were regulations that were unnecessary and zoning that was unnecessary. He even zoned the butte without their permission. And so I had ample opportunity over the 3 years he was in there to bring hundreds of people to the assembly, which I did. Fast forward a little bit, this year was a great year. We had some great victories in the Valley, and I helped lead some of them. So the Palmer recall, as you might remember, there were 4 people meeting in a closed Facebook group, and they were fighting against Palmer, really. They were trying to get rid of the police, destroy businesses, and what else? Get rid of the police, destroy businesses, and someone say something. Mask. Yes, I forgot a mask. Sorry. So I got together with the people that were trying to do this, and they allowed me to manage the project, and we were successful, extremely successful in communicating our message to the Palmer people, and they got rid of them. So next was the voting machines. I got together with another 7 people, and we helped to inform the assembly that these machines were not trustable. And so over and over we went to the assembly and communicated to them, and we got we got an ordinance from Ron Bernier, which got rid of the machines next year, gave us a hand count at the precinct level, and gave us candidate representatives that can see and hear. This year, we also have a hand count at a central level. Not exactly what we wanted, but we got something for this year. And see, these my opponent actually opposed this at first, and the only reason he voted for it later was because he had to. He gets his money from he funnels his money through Act Blue, or has funneled his money through Act Blue, which is a Democratic organization. So I'm showing you the differences between myself and my opponent. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. Just to be clear, Ryan is running for borough seat number?
MatSu Borough Assembly District 1.
And Dana?
District 2.
District 2. And Megan?
District 2.
Great. My first question would be...
Yes, ma'am.
My first question would be, what was something that the Assembly voted on recently that you agree or disagree with? And when and if you are elected, what would be something that you would bring before the Assembly?
Right.
And we'll start there, and then next we'll start.
Okay, sounds good. Thank you. So The very latest thing was the voting machines. I was really glad that that passed through. We see transparency, we save money on the issue, and that's two great things that you can, it's a win-win right there. So being able to bring forward policies and have the idea of reducing government, increasing transparency, saving money, those are that's the mentality that I'm bringing to the assembly.
And is there something that you would submit? Do you have something that you want to submit to the assembly?
Yes, so one of the things that I would like to address first is the mill rate and being able to reduce the mill rate. If we look at housing prices, they are skyrocketing. Personal expenses are skyrocketing, but not at the same rate as what the borough expenses are. If you take a look at the borough expenditure reports, it's not increasing at the same rate. So we have cushion to bring back that mill rate, reduce taxes and whatnot, maybe even reduce the excise tax on tobacco and marijuana products as well, considering how much money it brings in. So being able to reduce taxes is definitely something I want to take a look at.
Dana?
So the vote, the hand count of the vote, I definitely approve of that measure that was passed. And what I would push for is opening up the West Susitna area and resource development, which would help us keep the mill rate down if we could develop the resources out there on borough land. Because if we don't, just reducing the mill rate may not help us because we have all these other programs we have to maintain. So we need resources or resource development to be able to bring in revenue to help cut the mill rates. Plus we can get some recreational access out there for all the snow machiners and whatnot. They'll probably like that area, but a lot nice out there.
So I definitely approved of the voting machine, removing the voting machines. I helped design that ordinance. That was, we worked directly with Ron Bernier on that. One of the things I would probably want to do is modify that just a little bit by adding a serial number to it and bringing cameras in so that there's more accountability for what happens.
And now, if you would like to ask the candidates a specific question, we're going to follow the same pattern that if you can line up on that wall and kind of go from there. So my next question, you would start would be what's your thoughts on the infrastructure for the MatSu borough, and if you could include the port, the airport, and the railroad.
That does lead into my idea about the West Susitna. So, growing up, I went down from Brooklyn to a place called Cape Coral, Florida. We went down from 30,000 people to about 200,000 today. They didn't develop their infrastructure. They have no freeways. So now to go across town and stop and light traffic, and what we want to do here in the borough is to make sure we don't repeat these kind of mistakes and develop our road infrastructure to match the growth that's going on in the valley right now. We're booming on the growth, right? So we want to maintain our roads and improve our roads so we have access and accessibility, frontage roads, that type of deal, which goes into the railroad, right, and the port. I want to open up West Susitna. We need a port to get that stuff out of here, so I'd be pushing for the port improvement to make that go farther, and also so we could use that to take care of the resources that we may be able to get off of the West Susitna area.
Can you repeat the question for me, please?
Yes, the question is your thoughts on our borough infrastructure to include the port, the airport, and the railway.
So as far as the port goes, I really want to do some additional research on that before I say one way or another. I'm for development. I'm for what do you call it? I'm for that kind of thing. I'll say, but there's a lot that I don't know. My background is IT. I have 20 years of IT experience, so I know a lot about the machines and I know a lot about other things. As far as the port goes, I know they've been throwing a lot of money at it, and I want to make sure that it's efficient and effective. So as far as those things, as far as like roads, like for our community even, I want to make sure that they're going in the right direction. A lot of times community members have ideas about how the road should be. For instance, there was one in our area where the assembly was going one way with it and the community was going another way. Well, if the community doesn't want the road, don't put it in. But if they want the road, let's see how we can get it in. Another one would be the Bogart, where Bogart and Ingstrom come in. You know, I'm definitely for that, but that's already in the process. It's already, it looks like it's going to happen for sure. So anything that I can do to move that along, I certainly would. I'd work with the state, you know, Shower or Rauscher in my area, if I could, just to help make that go through. So.
Awesome. So I'm definitely in favor of more infrastructure in terms of like as we're growing. However, I would like to take more of a fine-tooth comb through the BOMs, taking a look at how expensive some of these projects are. For example, we're spending millions of dollars on sidewalks. However, they're only being able to use 5 months out of the year, and they aren't maintained during the winter. We can't use them then. Are we spending money on the right things? So that's something I would like to take a look at. Also, looking at zoning laws. I would prefer that when there's a demand for something, it should be able to be there. So being able to have grocery stores and whatnot in the areas that they need to be, taking a look at our zoning laws. Are they too strict? Are they restricting us from having this development? Or are all of us having to convene in one area for all our grocery stores? It seems like, you know, Walmart and Fred Meyer and, you know, all the other grocery stores and Target is all right there for our groceries. Why don't we open it up to take a look at our zoning laws, make sure that we can develop and spread out the way we need to? Because the MatSu is a very big place. We shouldn't have to all convene in one spot.
If you guys want to ask questions, come on over here and you can ask questions. If you line up against the wall over here, that'll make it easy.
From an infrastructure standpoint, we've got Matanuska River that is eroding away a lot. We spent a lot of money on that and don't really know where that's going to go. We got the railroad that, we got the main work done, but the railroad won't come in and put the tracks in so we can get the trains to Point Mac. And then you were just talking about something that really struck me. What was it? I'm having old timers time. Yeah.
The zoning laws or the sidewalks? Or?
Sidewalks.
Okay.
Okay, so probably one of my biggest pet peeves is we spend all this money for these roads, but my understanding is the feds make it so that they will pay more if we have a bike trail, which is supposed to be just for bikes, but it's not supposed to be for anything else, but it always does. We end up spending a lot of money on that when we could actually widen the roads a lot better. So those are kind of the three areas I kind of like you guys talk about a little bit is, could we get stop the feds from making us spend a bunch of money on bike trails we don't need, get the railroad to do their job, and then what are we going to do about the Matanuska River?
I guess I could address the sidewalk thing. Yeah, so the cost of compliance, taking a look at the cost of compliance, how we are given a certain amount of money that's earmarked, making sure that we have to pay for something. They'll give you something, but you have to do something with it. So looking at the cost of compliance, I am not threatened by that necessarily. I believe that we can take a closer look at it, and if we don't need that money or it ends up costing us more to receive that money, I think we should not be afraid of saying we don't need it. So does that answer your question? Railroads, that is something that I would actually need to look at more. I definitely plan on going to the transportation seminar, our open house that is later on this week, asking more questions in terms of that sort of stuff going on. And the river, sorry, multiple parts. Yeah, so we don't have enough equipment, enough money to fight against a river like that. We don't have enough people. It doesn't make sense. So again, taking a case-by-case scenario, like, is it worth spending that money? to fight against a raging river like that. So I'm actually an engineer by trade, and so I kind of understand fighting against those forces is quite expensive. So, and we need to know when it's time to cut our losses and look for a different way around it.
I agree with a lot of what Megan was saying. On the river, I've seen some things like they do in Japan with the rocks and the concrete barriers, kind of like riprap. Maybe we should do that, because I have seen right across the bridge here, a lot of those houses disappeared right there by the pull-off. So it is, but it is a force of nature, right? And so there is a cost benefit to that. When do we cut our losses, but how far back are we gonna let it go before the road starts getting impacted? The old blend there. But I would look at something. The railroad, the trains going to Port Mac, I'm all over that. I want to look at that deeper, because I want to do resource development out there in Mississippi. The port is a deep water port, so we could do things with that port. The only sad thing is there's no good infrastructure to Anchorage. So being an offload point, where's it going to go? Just in the valley and maybe Fairbanks. But Anchorage is the 300,000 people, right? So with no good roadway to get to Anchorage, we're kind of stuck with that, but we could use it for definitely for shipping stuff out of the state that might come out of the West Assitna area.
So as far as the river goes, they had some legislation going forward in the assembly at one time, and this is when Mayor DeVilbiss was on there, and I don't remember the exactly the way it was sitting, but basically it would have allowed some changes to take place within the river. So, the one thing that was talked about, he just mentioned, were the barricades, like you put bricks out there, or big rocks, or cement, whatever. And then another thing, I even talked to people at NIT, they were saying, hey, what if we got some people that were training on equipment and just had them move the rocks or move the river bed, basically dredge a place down the center and move the material up towards the sides during the winter. And that kind of thing could be done. I'd like to see something like that done. It would give people training, and it'd be less cost to the borough. The railroad. So the railroad, not exactly sure how to handle that yet, but I would research it and make sure I made a good decision on it. I'm for development. Just have to figure out how to do it and get with people that know more about it. And what was the third one?
Bike trails.
Bike trails in the street. So I think, Mike, if I'm correct, when they do the roads, some of the federal money that comes with it requires that the bike paths be put in. I could be wrong on that, but in general, when I was on the planning commission, it was something like $1 million a mile. It's probably doubled since then for a bike path. So that's a lot for a bike path. Me personally, I'd be kind of moving away from that a little bit if I could, to try to widen those roads. That would be my stance on it.
Hi, I'm Jackie Goforth, and I was at the MatSu Borough meeting on October 4th when they voted to remove the Dominion machines starting January 1st. But there was a first vote taken then, and it was to stall the vote until February of 2023. Now, unfortunately, my representative, Stephanie Nowers, is not here. Neither is Jim Hill, the other assembly member. And both of those two voted to stall, even talking about the Dominion machines, until February. But 2 minutes later, on the vote to remove the Dominion machines, Tim Hill voted to remove them. So he changed his mind in 2 minutes. Now what I want to know is, as a representative, and when I asked him at the Butte Community Council why he changes his mind. He did it also on the shooting range. First he voted to not allow anybody to have a shooting range on their property or do things with their property, and then he changed his mind and voted to allow it. So when I asked him why he did that, he said he could see it was going to be a losing vote, so why bother? So what I want to know is, since you've never been on an assembly, if you are faced with a vote like that, are you going to vote how your constituents want you to vote and how you really feel, or are you going to go with the flow and change your mind so that you won't have a loss on your record?
Great question. So being elected in, you are a public servant. You have to be a voice box for those that you represent. So it is, the priority is to make sure that you're representing, in my instance, it would be District 2. I would want to make sure that I have the most informed vote, and then I would also hear from as many people as possible and make sure that I represent the area well. I would try to look for solutions to these problems that people bring up that involve less government, because we all know that adding more government, it just creates more problems. And I feel like we have too much government at this point. Yeah, I hope that answers your question.
You're absolutely right about the politicians or elected officials changing their vote by the way the wind's blowing. So Tim Hale and Stephanie Nowers are both on record of doing that. How I look at it and what I want to run is I'm running for the people. So I'm going to vote for how the constituents want. I might not want it that way, but if that's what the people want, that's what we're going to do. Now I'll reach out and reach across the aisle, not to the Democrats type deal, but to you guys, and talk to you and see if we could have like little meetings like this to say, hey, if we do this, would that be acceptable? Because we can't have our way all the time. I mean, there's money that has to be spent, right? So we have to do a little give and take, but I'd rather have the people give us the give and take and give us the direction, and we do what the people want us to do.
So speaking specifically to these two things, the voting machines, I wouldn't have changed my vote whatsoever. I pushed and pushed and pushed to get rid of those machines, and I would have been consistent all the way across on that one. I wouldn't push to delay it, that's what my opponent does, but he did that because he voted for it because he had no choice. The people in my district are so adamant at getting rid of the machines that if he voted against it, he would have been out of office. So for that one, and then the other one, what did she mention? Shooting ranges. So I was opposed to the shooting ranges from the very beginning. Let me say that again and don't quote that. I was for the shooting ranges from the beginning. I was against the ordinance which basically got rid of shooting ranges for 3 years, I think it was, until at least a couple of years, whatever it was, until it got overturned. I brought people to the assembly to testify against that ordinance, and that was the first time, and then the second time to testify to bring it back. So I've been consistent all the way on that, and usually for those types of things, I state my position up front and I stick with it.
Hi, I'm Jeremiah Hamrick. I live in the valley here. 2 questions. First is, what's your thoughts on the MatSu borough being a first class instead of a second class borough, and also on crime reduction?
I'm going to have to review first class, second class, so what I would want to do is what's best for the borough. We are growing, so we have to keep that in mind. So I'll have to differentiate between first and second class. On the crime, the Palmer PD, I'm in District 2, so Palmer's the closest, do an excellent job. I don't support defunding the police or anything like that. And this actually came up in one of my other discussions. As the borough's growing, do we go to the troopers and say, hey, you need some more manpower, or do we start looking at a borough sheriff, to maintain the law and order in the borough for the crime that's coming up?
Yeah, as far as the first class and second class borough, first class borough is a huge change. And one of the biggest things I'm concerned with is the health powers. And I want to be able to crush those before that came in, because we don't need the borough to have health powers. We saw what it did at the national level, and it's very destructive. So as far as that one goes, and then been knocking on too many doors lately. Sorry about that. Crime. So when, as far as like when the Palmer issue was going up with the recall, there were definitely, I was definitely against what they were trying to do by destroying the police department there. And as far as the borough goes, I think you would have to change it to a county to have a county sheriff. So there's more investigation I would need to do for that, but I would definitely be in favor of a county sheriff if it was something that was feasible, rather than a local. So we have local Palmer police, we have local Wasilla police, but I wouldn't want borough to control the police. I would want the voters to control the sheriff.
In terms of first class, second class, as I understood it, the borough was a tier 2 government. I don't know the specifics about first class and second class, so I would have to look at that more. In terms of crime, there's a couple of different things that we need to take a look at. The past couple of years, we've all been cooped inside. A lot of us have lost our jobs. There's just been a lot of lives that have been ruined with government overreach. So recovering from that, I think, can actually really help a whole bunch. In terms of making sure we don't have any more mandates that ruin people's lives, pretty much. I know I lost my job with the mandates and whatnot, and it got really hard there for a bit. We were wondering where we were going to live. So taking a look at why that crime is there in the first place, and then also I feel like there are times that our police are overloaded. I know they were talking about how they had to take out the, is it the SEOs from the high schools? I believe the acronym is. The safety officers from the high schools, because there's just not enough people signing up to be police. So are they overburdened? Are there things that we could actually, decriminalize? Is it worth getting police involved and making sure that they are focusing on the much more heinous, the much more severe crimes that are going on in the valley, and making sure they aren't overburdened? And
Thank you, folks. My name is John Miller, and this election on November 8th is going to have a proposition from the borough on it. It's proposition number 1, and I'll read it. It says, the Mananuska-Susitna Bureau proposes to enact MSB 01-10-300 to require that any future ordinance regulating the discharge of firearms outside city limits must be ratified by the voters before it can take effect. I was wondering if you are a yes or a no on that, and maybe you could explain your position. Thank you.
did you say it was a discharge of firearms is what it is? Sorry, that part was a little fuzzy.
Yes, it's requiring a vote of the people if there's any kind of regulations regulating the discharge of firearms outside of the cities.
Okay. I feel like I can read it better, like when I'm reading it than when I hear it, sorry. Okay. So when it comes to firearms, I'm very much pro 2A and whatnot. I am not in favor of any sort of restrictions, really, and so it's hard to say like yes or no, because I don't think there should be any restrictions on it at all, and it should be something that should come up. So I wouldn't even want to put it up for a vote. So anyways, I guess possibly put it yes, but I wouldn't want there to be any restriction to be brought up when it comes to firearm discharge.
I'd be a definite yes vote on that, and it goes right to the core principle, right? We, the people, are the militia, and the Second Amendment speaks directly to the militia, which is everyone in this room here, able-bodied person. And we have to practice with our weapons, so the people should have the final say on that, not the government.
I would be a yes on that as well. This is rising up because of the restrictions that they tried to put forward before, And it just prevents the borough from taking that right away from the people.
All right. Hi guys. I was at the Butte meeting last week too, and I asked Brian and Tim how they feel about ranked choice voting. You guys had completely different answers, so I just wanted to ask that again, and then also see what you guys feel. Thanks.
So when it comes to ranked choice voting, I'm actually in favor of it because I come from a third party and there has been difficulties in ballot access, and it removes those barriers of ballot access. It also forces candidates to not do any mudslinging campaigns. As you see, when there's mudslinging involved, it really hurts your party. We've seen it a lot with Sarah Palin and Nick Begich, and it's really hurt their voter turnout when really you could rank them, how you want, 1 and 2 or 2 and 3, depending on how you're going to do. You could rank them together if you really wanted Republican, and then choose the best Republican that you think. So I'm actually in favor of ranked choice voting.
Ranked choice voting, if you think about democratic elections, one person, one vote, ranked choice voting is not a democratic process. So I am definitely opposed to ranked choice voting. At our level at the borough, we really can't say too much except for maybe petition the state, because those are going to be state laws on the ranked choice, but we can work to try to get this removed from the state laws so we could go back to a more democratic process.
I'm against ranked choice voting. Most of the people that I've door knocked, and if I have an opportunity to have a conversation with them, they bring up ranked choice voting before any other issue that I bring up, and they don't like it. So I think from at least District 1, most of the doors that I've hit, they don't like it either. I can't see that most of the borough would either.
Hi, I'm Mary, and I'm not totally familiar with what you guys do, so if you fill me in, that would be helpful. My gist is you're helping the county, or you meet for the county. I call it county, but borough, right? Okay, my question is, I get a lot of anxiety driving around here, even though I come from the pit of LA, Los Angeles. The traffic starts getting claustrophobic at certain times of the day. What are your ideas that, if this is part of what you guys can do, helping with the roads in this area, in the county? Traffic.
Yeah, so in terms of traffic, I think I touched on it a little bit with, in terms of the zoning laws. They're highly restrictive in making sure that our resources are, concentrated in a certain area as opposed to spread out like they should be. There's only like 2 different areas where you can go get our groceries, so we all have to congregate to one area to get our groceries is an example I use. But taking a look at zoning laws and being sure we can spread out our resources in our, the markets and facilities and whatnot, I believe would really help with that. So.
I'm familiar with the LA traffic. I was stationed down in El Toro by the 5 and the 405 right there. So the first time I went there, I was actually afraid to get on the freeway. But right, and that's what we need here, right? Because the MatSu Valley is growing and growing tremendously. We need better roads. So there's multiple ways of doing this. Frontage roads comes to mind from Texas, where for local access along the shops, you're on like a surface street, and the Parks Highway won't have any red lights. You just go right on through. So that's what I would look at, is some way that makes some kind of frontage road and better access off the main highways, and let the highways become the freeways to get the people around so it's not so claustrophobic.
So when I was going door to door, for instance, in the Wasilla Fisher area, the Bogard Road to Ingstrom Bogard roundabout was one of the main issues. You knock on a few doors and you start figuring out where the road issues are. When they bring them up. And one of the biggest ways to also find out about these issues is from the road service areas. And they bring up reports that the assembly can look at. And we can gather information from there and talk to the people in that area to see if that's actually what they want. Sometimes the road service areas, no one attends them.
or very few people attend them. And sometimes you just have to go to the people to find out what they really want in these roads. And the people have to voice an opinion as well. So.
Thank you. Good evening. I would like to know, first off, I'd like to say thank you for running. It's incredible that, that you put yourself out there, so thank you very much for doing that. I would like to know where you stand on the Constitutional Convention and why you would be a yes vote or a no vote.
So in terms of the Constitutional Convention, I'm actually in favor of having a constitutional convention. It's been a while since we've actually come together, and if you take a look at all the checks and balances that are involved and how long the process is, I'm not scared of some of the fear-mongering that has gone on in terms of like, oh, they're gonna add this to the, adding these boogeyman's to the Constitution. I have faith that we can actually make some good changes to the Constitution. There's a few different items that need to be addressed, and I think this is a great opportunity to do so.
I also support the Constitutional Convention. It's time that we have one. Very multiple issues the citizens want to address. How we elect our Supreme Court justices, which right now they're appointed, so that could be looked at. The PFD. So there's multiple issues that we the people should discuss in this Constitutional Convention. And the process, if the people don't agree with it, the process will nullify or tamper down the demands of other people, right? So we could do the Constitutional Convention and have the people look at the issues.
I'm for the Constitutional Convention. I would be a yes vote on it. And the PFD and the judges were mentioned. So, I mean, we have to vote, we as a people have to vote on this Constitutional Convention first, whether or not it will happen. And then once it happens, we get to vote in representatives that will represent us. So it's a win-win in that situation. And those representatives then will discuss what items they'll actually be putting on the ballot for us to vote on later. So there's ample opportunity for checks and balances, and we're the final check. We get to vote yes or no on what they bring up.
Howdy, I'm Dave Johnson. I kind of understand what you're talking about when you're saying getting yourself onto the ticket for the ranked choice voting because of a jungle primary. But that still troubles me, and I want to know how you guys are going to fix the other problem with it. Okay, if I want to be elected, and let's say right now I don't think Democrats are pretty popular, so Republicans are popular. I list myself as a Republican, and then I'm on the ticket, so people are going to be picking me over a Democrat most likely. I kind of bring this up because if you look at what happened with Lisa Murkowski, 60% of her votes came from the Democrats. She's listed as a Republican. How do you support your candidate? If we say you're a Republican and you're not a Republican, there's a problem there. You see what I'm talking about? They're not. You don't know what they are. Are the Republicans rhinos? Are the Democrats Republicans? It doesn't make sense. So what are the people to do when they're so confused looking at the ranked choice voting? How do you intend to fix it?
Well, I feel like ranked choice voting actually helps in this regard in that, in terms of Kelly Tshibaka and Lisa Murkowski, far more Republicans seem to favor Kelly Tshibaka than Lisa Murkowski, so many people are going to be ranking her higher. They see her as a better Republican than Lisa Murkowski, but some people would rather have Lisa Murkowski over whoever else is running. I believe Buzz Kelly dropped out. Who is it? Chesborough is also on there. So having that ranked choice voting, you get to choose who you think is a better represents your party. Additionally, too, it gives. So I am actually a libertarian. So when it comes to the House Rep vote, I feel confident in voting the libertarian candidate, Chris Bai. However, taking a look at it, then next I'm most likely going to be looking at the Republicans, and then I'd rather have a Republican so I can safely vote for who I want to vote for, very confidently. And if they are knocked out in the first round, well, okay, then this is who I would rather have after that. And it's still one vote. It's just
so you know, it was 66% Democrat for Lisa Murkowski. That wasn't that many Republicans that voted for her. That's what I'm trying to get at here.
Right.
It's Chesborough She didn't get that many votes. Why? They went to Lisa. So that it's confusing the people. Ranked choice is a bad thing. This jungle primary stuff, you don't know who your candidates are. I think it should be conservative and wacko. It should be two different categories.
I'm on the conservative side.
Hi,
My opponent can speak for himself.
I'm Mary Ann Burke. I'm going to bring up a difficult topic. I'm just reading about all this transgenderism shows in the libraries, and I'm concerned about our community. And if it was, well, I'll use the word conservative, it wouldn't be so bad, but when you're seeing and hearing of skimpy clothing and pelvic twerking and things like that around the children, I'm very concerned. Can you comment about that?
Sure. So when it comes to like transgender issues, for sure I wouldn't be in favor of like funding any of these programs. I've heard that some of these things are funded through public or tax dollars. When it comes to that as well, when you're an adult and you're doing your own thing away from other people, fine. But when children are involved, I'm a mother myself. I'm very protective when it comes to children. I don't think that should be around children, and that goes for other things too when it comes to sex education and whatnot. I think we need to be very mindful of what we're exposing our children to. There's been textbooks that have been seen that have pornographic content and whatnot, and so I believe we should be taking an active role in not exposing children to that, and we shouldn't be funding that sort of stuff. If that answers the question.
I'm pretty much on the same boat as Megan on that, where social issues aren't the purvey of the government. That belongs to the communities and the people and the families, right? So we should not be funding or paying for the social issues into our public libraries. Number one, we should be actually saying why are they even doing that. We shouldn't allow that to happen. The library is for books, not for transgender type of shows, right?
So in the schools, I went to testify 3 times. Boys should not be in girls' bathrooms. Girls should not be in boys' bathrooms. We should be teaching the kids reading, writing, and arithmetic. Not lies. There's no truth in transgender. We need to be teaching the children truth. God made man and woman. He made them male and female. That's it. So the rest of it's made up. That's my opinion on that.
I just have a quick question for each candidate. Are you pro-life or pro-choice? And could you explain, please? Thank you.
Sure. So before I talk about this subject, it comes up with people that know of me. So I had an ectopic pregnancy a year and a half ago, so I had to have a life-saving procedure that, so when I do talk about this subject, they're like, oh, well, you had an abortion. Well, no, hold on, that was life-saving. So, and when talking about that, when we get into the later stages of pregnancy, absolutely no abortion, but like when we get to the earlier stages, I believe there needs to be exceptions and safety measures in place for people like myself. I have a daughter I have to think about, and like, what if this happens again? I want to be alive for her and be able to have access to a life-saving measure. And so, and additionally too, when it comes to pro-life, I believe in order to reduce abortions, we need to take care of things like making medical care more accessible by reducing certificate of need laws and other barriers, also opening up telemedicine and allowing for people that have certificates in other states. So right now you have to have a certificate to practice medicine here in Alaska and get it through Alaska. However, more and more states are accepting certificates from other states, and so we can allow to have more doctors, more access to healthcare, which brings healthcare costs down, and I believe that will be far more effective in reducing the amount of abortions that you see here. So.
I am pro-life. Life begins at conception. So I would not be conducive to any kind of making abortion available to the students and the children, right? It shouldn't be used as a form of birth control. There's other ways to do that.
I'm 100% pro-life. Life does begin at conception and God gives life. So as far as doctors and how they're involved, you know, a doctor should do everything that he can. We should go back to the time before abortion was illegal. Abortion was legal, you know, back to before Roe, you know, completely. And where the doctor tries to save both lives and does everything that he can to do so.
These are both yes or no answerable question. The question is, are you aware of the Janus decision at the federal level? And can the Janus decision be applied at the MatSu borough?
I remember reading about it, but I'm having a brain fart on it. I feel like I've been reading a lot. Could you remind us about the Janus decision? I remember reading about it. I'm sorry.
It was a judicial decision at the federal level that employees, public employees do not need to opt out of a union. They can choose to opt in.
Okay.
I believe that's how it is. That's my summary.
Yeah, when it comes to unions and whatnot, I believe that there needs to be an option to opt in or out of it. I do not approve of, there's multiple, how do I put it, professions where you are required to be in a union in order to have that. I am not in favor of that. I believe you should be able to opt in or out depending on, you know, your own personal decisions.
I support the Janus decision from the Supreme Court, and I do think it should be applied to private sector as well as the public sector. I did have to join a union for one of my jobs, so I'm kind of opposed to that myself. So I think Janus should be expanded to the private sector.
Yes, I think that it can be applied to the MatSu borough, and then I think it should be. They should have the option.
Hi, my name is Bert, and I'd like to thank all three of you for being here today. I wish that the two incumbents that are sitting on the assembly right now could have been here. This has been a very unfair debate, but a great forum to hear from three like-minded people. We have several problems that are in the MatSu borough that have crept up over the years, like the gun ordinance, which is what the proposition that is there right now is about, to make sure that the assembly just can't blanketly restrict our gun rights. I appreciate, you know, three of your answers on that. One of my biggest questions is 2/3 of our entire budget here in the MatSu Valley happens to go to our school district. And it pays for the education or lack thereof, because as you all are very well aware, we're ranked worst in the nation. Or darn near close. We're only like 1 or 2 away from having that top score for that. The MatSu School Board is doing their best to remove the woke agenda that has been perpetuating within our school system. One of the big ties to that is state money and federal money that have strings attached to it, that either you push this agenda or you don't get this money. What, if elected, would you be willing to do to help? Like I said, 2/3 of the entire budget from our property taxes is paying for that, to make it so that we could get back to reading, writing, and arithmetic, remove the agenda, and cover the losses that will happen because the state and the federal won't chip in the money anymore.
Absolutely. So when it comes to what folks call like woke curriculum, such as CRT and whatnot, they call it multiple different names as well. I believe the only real way you can actually get it out of the school system is to have a school choice sort of system. So I don't know if you guys are familiar with Corey DeAngelis. He talks about this, having a system where the money follows the child, and they have, you know, they call it like backpack laws or whatnot, by the backpack. Parents having more of a say of what school they go to and what curriculum they're being taught, you're gonna see less and less students going to schools that have like CRT and Common Core Math and a bunch of other stuff. They're going to go to the schools that are doing well. I believe this should be opened up to charter schools, to home schools, immersion schools, and other types of schools, because you see the success that's coming out of there. I'm a product of the MatSu School Borough School District. I went to Cottonwood Creek Elementary, Tula Middle School, and Colony High. When I went on to college, I thought I was going to do really well, but you know, that first semester it was a slap to the face. I went to school for chemical engineering, and it was difficult. There was a few classes I had to retake. Luckily, I didn't have to take any remedial classes. However, if you look at how the statistics are now, if students from the MatSu School Borough go to UAA to further their education, an estimated 50% of those kids have to take remedial classes, and that's very disturbing. And so we need to be rewarding systems that are succeeding with our children, having that school choice. That way we can choose winning programs for our children, have more of a say, and that's the only real way to get CRT and other curriculums out. They've tried to ban it in other states, and they've shown that they just call it something else, and they find a way around those barriers. So.
School choice is one solution to get rid of the CRT. The other way is the community. So we need public education. We need education, right? The kids have to be educated, public, private, charter, you name it. But the community, if they really want to have the CRT out, which I do as well, and we just want the basics, reading, writing, math, the sciences, well, we have to pay for that. We need an educated workforce. We need educated children. So if we do that and we lose state and federal funding, the citizens have to be able to say, yeah, we're going to pay for it out of our pocket because we lost that funding. If that's the direction you want us to go, I'm all over that. But we have to be, as a community, to do that, because if we lose the state and federal funding, we have to pick up the slack, right? So that's going to cause an increase in most of our taxes. But I think it's worth it myself for that purpose, for the education, if we could keep all the CRT stuff out.
So I have a good relationship with the District 1 school board member, and most of the school board is conservative. There's one that's really far left. And probably you would call them woke. And so I would want to work with a school board member in my district and figure out what his strategies are to remove those things. And then from working together with the school board's at one level, and then we fund them. So we can appropriate the money in the right way if we know what's going on and how to best do it. They're going to give us some good ideas. We'll take it from them, and then we'll apply what we need to.
Any other questions?
Thank you very much. This would be the time where you would do your wrap up and ask for the vote.
All right, thank you. Oh, here we go. Thank you so much, folks, for coming out here and making sure that you have an educated vote. That I really respect that and value that. Again, my name is Megan Trupp. I'm running for District 2, so that is the Greater Palmer area, and I'm hoping to bring a libertarian mindset so that we have less taxes, less fees, the government gets out of your hair, it gives you a break, especially when it comes to your wallet, and make sure that we have more of a free market that demands what we need here in the Valley. We don't have too much overreach that is actually restricting us. We have many things to look forward to, such as the Arctic Winter Games and whatnot, and that's a great opportunity for our small businesses. Let's make sure that government is out of the way so that they can succeed. Thank you.
I'm Dana Raffinello. I'm also in District 2. I want to be your representative on the assembly. I want to work for you guys and on the direction you give us. I'm a true conservative, like most of these guys up here, but I want to be for you, and what I want to do is get other people engaged civically because our turnout rates are horrible. 6% in the last election in Palmer. So I'm trying to set the example I'm an introvert by nature, so I'm jumping up on the stage saying, if I could do it, you could do it. We need more people civically involved, getting out there and vote and being part of the community at large, because look how far off the rails it's gone.
I'm Brian Endel, your true conservative candidate for MatSu Borough Assembly District 1. I'm for less government, lower taxes, and election integrity. I have a history of fighting for my community, for Palmer, and even for this borough by getting rid of the voting machines. I know that I'll show up. You know, the other candidate had a 3-in-1 schedule, and he rarely showed up to the MatSu Borough Assembly. Well, there's a clear difference between myself and him. I'm a Republican, I'm a conservative, I've shown who I have been, and I'm consistent. So my opponent takes his money from the Democrats and gets endorsed by them. So there's a clear difference between us. I also wanted to bring up one thing about government in the MatSu Borough, which a lot of people probably aren't aware of. But you know, when we had this COVID epidemic, and one of the main things they wanted to do, they wanted to shut down everything. Well, we know that, but they specifically wanted to target churches. So I'm bringing that up because things start from the low level and they raise up to the top. So there should be evidence of that in the lower level, and there is. So I was going to buy some land in Chickamoon at one time because my mother-in-law lives there, and there was a parcel I wanted. I went to the zoning that they had in Chickamoon. And the zoning that they have in Chickamoon actually requires someone that wants to build a church to go in front of a planning commission. So what that means is that, let's say a pastor should be able to go to God, ask God for a church. And if God says yes, let's go build it, you know? But in Chickamoon, what they require is that if someone wants to build a church, they have to come in front of a planning commission. Now that's a government organization that can be completely godless. And then that's how that decision would be made in front of that board, whether or not they could have their church or not. I'm bringing this up because we're in a church, because I think a lot of you are church-going members. And this is not something that we really want in our government, but it's something that's being put in our government, and pressure is being applied to do it in different places. Now, maybe not this particular item, but I brought a sheet which has the code in it. It's in the back by my flyers. I'd like you to take a look at it and take it to your churches, because this is not something that we want in the MatSu Borough. It's something that we can easily remove. So that's one additional thing I wanted to bring up. Again, I'm your true conservative candidate. I'd appreciate your vote November 8th.
Well, I think they did an excellent job answering the questions. Thank you so much for showing up. That's a big deal. You all did wonderful questions. One round of applause. And you are free to do it. Thank you so much. And now we're going to start with our announcements. And CJ will be calling on people.
Okay, I know that there's a couple of announcements already. Would you like to go ahead and give your announcement?
So I work with Kelly, and she has a meeting this week, or the 23rd, from 3 to 4:30. She'll be there. It's to meet her, and it's Everett's 1850 East Bogart in Wasilla. So it's October 23rd, 3 to 4:30, and there's refreshments that are provided. And these flyers are on the table back there. So hope to see you there. Go ahead, Jessica.
There's a map here where you can see which voter, where your assembly and school board members, where the location is. So Brian is with one and the other, Dana, and I forget her first name.
Megan.
Megan are number 2, and so you can let your friends know, take a picture of it, or that's what I had to say.
Excellent. Are there any other announcements? Yeah. Mike, you have some.
So is everybody aware that the MatSu chapter of AMAC Action is now defunct? It's no more. We dissolved it. The reason, I'm not going to get into a whole lot of it because it take a half an hour to do it, but the bottom line of it is that the folks in Florida didn't like the fact that our chapter was going to back ballot measure 1. And they didn't think that we had the authority, and they got this crazy idea that they run the show. So we had a meeting Saturday. The motion was made to dissolve. We were told by the leadership down in Florida that we weren't even supposed to have the meeting on Saturday, which we were, and we did, and we discussed it. And we voted, and we had 40 some odd people there, and it wasn't unanimous. There was 2 no's, and the rest were yes. So the last portion of the final the final nail in the coffin for me was that my wife and I discussed staying with AMAC as far as members. We decided not to. I called AMAC up to tell them that I wanted to drop my membership, and they told me that, oh, that's already been done. Wow. And I said, wait a minute, I just called to drop it. She looked, the CEO, Rebecca Weber, and the CEO of AMAC Action had canceled my membership. So that was the last straw. So that's the crazy news. The good news in a church, we're in a good church, is that we have started, as soon as that was over with and that vote came down, we adjourned, and we started what we're calling right now, name may change. Right now, the name is we're Concerned Conservatives of Alaska. And we're opening this up to all ages. This isn't just a senior thing. This is open to all ages. November 19th here at 11 o'clock, we're going to have our first full meeting. We had elections of officers. They think I'm crazy enough to be president still, so I'm president. Terry Lyons, I don't know how many people know who Terry is. She's a phenomenal lady. She's our vice president. We got Tom Wood, who's been my communications guy. He's going to do that. He doesn't know it yet, but he's going to be secretary for a while because we need a secretary for 501c3. And Julie Morgan's our treasurer, and then Politadick is going to take on a lot of the video and the Zoom stuff. So it's going to be a lot of fun. We are going to be advocating. There's two goals I got. One is education. You got to know who your legislatures are. You got to know what the ordinances are. You got to know what the legislation is going on, so you know what it is. So we need to be able to know that education. And then once you're educated, then you need to advocate. Then you need to go out and you say, we're going to go to these committee hearings and we're going to say no, or we're going to say yes, and why. The same thing with assemblies, the same thing with the borough, the same thing with the city councils. We need to be able to be advocates for our views, because we are the MatSu Valley. We are conservatives, and we got a lot of conservatives in this state, and a lot of conservatives in this nation. And I think with what we're going to try and do, I want to take the 8 years I did with AMAC, and I grew that thing. I know how to do it. We're going to do it. We're going to have right now we're at 400 some odd people within just the old MatSu chapter. I'm going to try and grow that thing to 500 to 10 to 1,000 and run on up. We're going to encompass the entire state of Alaska. So I would hope that you guys would come November 19th here at 11 a.m. Thank you.
Thanks, Mike, and congratulations on the new organization.
Thank you.
Are there any other announcements?
I have something I want to share with you guys. I'm from Anchorage 3 years ago, but now I'm here, and you guys, it's a pretty big room, so I'd like to share with you a quick story that has to do with all of us. My daughter was killed in the workplace 11 years ago as an electrical apprentice. There was nothing that really prevented the employer from her being killed. They had an inadequate non-contact tester. They did not supervise her well. She got locked up and was electrocuted. And so I have fought for her justice for her life since then. There was one news thing that happened when it was really raining. We were at the Alaska USA Federal Credit Union building where it happened. And they came out and all they did was they kept saying the mother wants more money. What happened was, all that happened was the employer with the insurance paid for the funeral costs. That's it. There is no liability to the employer or the third parties, which is the project owner, where the bank was where she was killed, as well as the contractor, the general contractor. I've talked with David Eastman about that. I would ask that you get behind him, and I will too, because I've gone to the U.S. Supreme Court now twice with a certiorari asking for justice for the life of my daughter. And it isn't just her, it's all of you and your children are being exposed to danger, and there's no liability to the employer. And actually, an attorney told me recently, I think his name is Scala, he said the word in the workplace now is it's better that they're dead than that they're injured. Because in injury, there's huge payout. If Abigail, this is my daughter Abigail, was killed. If Abigail had lost her arm or a finger or anything, in fact, that's what they kept comparing her death case to was the Shield case in Alaska. The guy lost a finger. And they kept comparing that case to her case through the whole thing. I also had practically no attorney support or representation because it wastes the attorney's time. They can't go all the way to the Alaska Supreme Court. They've tried that. They lose money and time and they don't win. So the only way now that this can be changed is by the people, like by a public initiative. And so the grassroots, you guys have to know that there is no liability in the workplace. Unless the employer pays for your life insurance or the life insurance of your child or whoever you know, there is no liability in the workplace by the employer, which is legally okay across the nation, but it's not okay that nobody's liable. So in 2004, with the amendment SB 303, they passed where the contractor and the project owner, the third parties, are also not liable. No one is liable. So again, in our country, we've got money first, people last. And Andy Josephson is a Democrat. He helped me through most of this, even though I'm very Republican. But it's a bipartisan issue. Any of your children, anybody you know, could be killed, especially in dangerous workplace situations. So please, the only way that I can focus this is, I like David Eastman, he's a good man. I'm really sorry about the bad stuff that's going on in the media, but he's a good man, so I hope we can get behind him and create a bill to hopefully change this in our state. It's in our state that there's no liability. Some states have a little bit of payout for a single person killed. That was the issue too. I'm sorry, it's kind of long. But because she was single with no dependents, there was nothing even but the funeral costs. If she had dependents, there'd be a small payout, but they haven't changed that amount for over 20 years. It's based on very, very low amounts. So this really needs to be addressed at some point.
Thank you.
Thank you for sharing that. And I'm very sorry for your daughter. It is hopefully something that some of us can get behind and try to make a change. Kathy, you have an announcement?
Yes, this Thursday at MatSu Family Restaurant at 6 o'clock, we are having the Valley Republican Women's meeting, and we are going to have the school board candidates there. Are you going to be there, Brian?
I'm going to try.
And Brian Indo's going to try to be there. Thank you.
Okay, are there any other announcements?
Tomorrow, Wasilla Chamber is having a Senate debate at Evangelos at 11 o'clock. If you're a part of the Wasilla Chamber, show up. I'm planning on being there. Don't know if I'll be able to live stream it or not, but I will record it if I can and stream it up a little bit later. Also tomorrow night in Anchorage at the LUSAC Library, they are having a ConCon, why the convention yes and why we should be voting yes. Senator Hughes and Senator Mike Showers are the ones that are going to be hosting this event. If you have the opportunity to be there, it starts at 7 p.m. Please show up. The more people involved, the more educated we are, the more we're going to make the correct decision when it comes time to vote November 8th. I'm yes on one myself. Last thing, just kind of a self-plug. I'm trying to get on Rumble, so if any of you guys are on Rumble, please look me up at Politadick and follow me. I'm trying to open up a channel that takes 20 followers. That's all it takes. To be able to live stream on there, I'm going to need 100 followers, and that is my ultimate goal, is I want to be able to start live streaming to them. I've had one too many things that I've streamed in the past year shut down by YouTube, Twitter, and Facebook, and they automatically delete it. And then flag my page, I get my distribution gets shut down. I want to have a channel to be able to do something like when they had the election discussions that were held here. I want to be able to stream those and not have myself be flagged because they don't appreciate what I'm trying to stream out there, or the big COVID symposiums, the 2 of them, 3 of them that they've now had. I would have loved to have live streamed them, but none of the channels will allow that to happen. Rumble will change that. Help me get there, please. Thanks.
Hey, Bert, are you going to be live streaming on the 18th tomorrow?
I will be there tomorrow, yes. At the ConCon, I'll be at the live streaming that.
How do you spell it? Spell your...
Politadick. Politadick.
Okay, are there any other announcements? Okay, Representative Eastman.
Thank you, CJ. I'd like to ask you to raise your hand if you believe, if in your experience, the left is committed to free and fair elections. How many of you believe that no matter what bad things the left proposes and does, they're not going to touch your right to vote? All right. You might have heard about my lawsuit, so I was asked to give a brief update. Here it is. So if you live in Wasilla or around Wasilla, you have been declared a subversive zone. What that means is 3 times in a row, you've elected the wrong candidate. And so those in Anchorage have decided that you are irredeemable. And your right to vote is now going to be taken away by the judiciary. And so they filed a lawsuit in Anchorage, of course, to ask an Anchorage judge to tell you who you can vote for. And that would be me, since I was the one that won those 3 elections. And that is why I am now spending most of my time talking with attorneys, and instead of going door to door in my district, trying to raise a very large sum of money to be able to defend your right to vote, particularly your right to vote for someone like me. And so I do have enough envelopes for everyone here. If you'd like to participate, it's a huge effort. Need a lot of people to be involved. There is no donation too large, so we will not accept it. Working with Joe Miller, my attorney. I just wanted to read with you, for you, just a couple of excerpts from the organization that has led the fight for the last 2 years to remove me from office. This was the complaint that came in to the Division of Elections to say why those in Wasilla should not be allowed to vote for me. The organization that has led the effort and circulated the petition and hosted the rally to remove me from office for, and I get this, for being subversive and for the overthrow of the United States Constitution. This is the organization. This is their webpage. The United States today is a dictatorship of the capitalist class. This reality will not change without a socialist revolution. The oppressors have never surrendered their power voluntarily. As Marxists in the United States, our starting point is an assessment of the world situation of the struggle between the classes on an international scale. Capitalism cannot be voted out of power. It will take a revolution. For the people and the planet to live, capitalism must go. Only a revolution can do away with the rule of the capitalists once and for all. If you think they're just going after me, you would not be correct. They are going after you. And they are now asking for the judiciary to be able to decide who gets elected out here in the Valley. Not any different than if we went to a constitutional convention and instead of having elections for legislators, we decided that we're going to elect our legislators by putting them in front of a judge, just the way we do our judges, so that a judge would decide who should represent you in the legislature. So, glad to answer any questions and talk to you about it more, but we're almost 8:30, so I'll let you go. Thank you.
Did you want to bring up?
Also, on a completely separate note, the Into Action class is coming here to the Valley this weekend. It's some very strong patriots that I happen to know who've served in the FBI, who've served in the CIA, who can tell you all about organizations like this and what they're doing here in Alaska and help you understand how they do what they do and how it can be stopped legally. There is a price tag. It's like $295 for a 2-day class, but well worth it. If you can afford to be here, please make that opportunity. It's the first time they've come to Alaska. It may be a long time until we can get them to come back here again. Thank you.
Yeah. Are you going to be able to get a jury by trial in December?
They want a jury in Anchorage to decide who gets to be voted off in the MatSu. So that's part of the legal battle right now, is trying to argue why that would be a bad idea for Alaska.
Trying to get a venue.
Yeah, that's part of the battle. Yep. Thank you.
Representation by your peers. They're not your peers in Anchorage.
They think they are.
Any other announcements? I have the last announcement then. This School of Government will not meet until November 21st. So we're going to have a little bit of a break. But Mayor Edna would be very upset with me if I did not encourage each and every one of you to find the candidates of your choice and do the door knocking, wave signs.
Tomorrow at 12:30 at Crema. There's door knocking available tomorrow at 12:30. We're meeting at the Crema Cafe in Wasilla. If anybody's interested to go do some door knocking, you can see me afterwards.
So we got sign waving events. There are people that are organizing that. Kathy?
That was Friday. The next one is this Friday at 4:30. Oh, sorry. The next sign waving is
this Friday at 4:30 to 6:30 at the Target intersection. And if you don't have signs for your candidates, we have lots of different signs.
Also, what David was referring to, understand the threat. Go to the Point Blank Facebook, and also here's a flyer, and I do have an email version to send out if anyone wants an email version. General Flynn, John Mandel, and this other lady, I can't remember her name,
Claire.
All right, well, so you would send us on our way?
Sure. Would y'all stand? Father, we just thank you for this time. We ask that you bless the candidates and bless all the candidates that have decided to give up their time to run and represent us. Lord, we know that that is something that's a sacrifice, and we just ask that you bless them. Keep everyone safe on their way home tonight, and help us until November 8th. In Jesus' name, amen. Amen.
All right, I'd like to thank you all for being here tonight. Thank you so much for tuning in. If you haven't liked and shared, please do that right now. And if you're just catching on to this right at this moment, please go to our newest page, which can be found at rumble.com, and type in our name in the search bar, Politadick, Politadick, and follow us there. We want to start live streaming to them. You can find this broadcast today on YouTube, Twitter, Facebook at Politadick and Politadick Unfiltered, and while it's live at our website, Politadick.com. And if you happen to be heading to Politadick.com, click on that support button. All proceeds make it available so that we can keep making it to all these different events like the Senate Candidate Forum that's tomorrow night or tomorrow morning, and the ConCon, which is tomorrow night, Convention Yes, Why to Vote Yes with Senator Shelley Hughes and Senator Mike Shower. And then we also have Thursday night, I do plan on being at the MatSu Republican Women's school board assembly or school board members, candidates that are going to be running. I will be at that one also. My understanding that's going to be only the conservative candidates that are running, but I could be wrong. And but I would love to see you all there, and your support is helping to make that happen. The quality broadcast sounding equipment for the microphones, the wireless one that I'm currently talking to you on right now. I'll step back from the camera here a little bit, make it easier to see. But this has all been made possible by supporters like you. So please go to our website, Politadick.com, click that support button. Rumble will have a new video hopefully by the end of this weekend, and it is entitled, Do You Suffer from Erectile Dysfunction? If so, we at Politadick MD have the cure for you. This is one video you're not going to want to miss out on. And if you go to rumble.com right now, you'll see Lady Di testimony at the MatSu school board meeting here a few weeks ago, and what she had to say about diversity, inclusion, and equity. Die for Lady Di. You guys all have a great evening, and remember, like and share.